Pixel Gaiden! Hello everyone, welcome to a very special crossover event this week on ARG Presents. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man that will cross over in between entertaining and extremely angry. I give you the BRENT.
I don't really cross over that. I try to stay in one lane.
You know, remember when I used to put the nameplates below us?
Yeah.
You know, I guess by now people know who we are. I stopped doing that. I don't remember when I did it. I just thought about it just now. Anyway, after that riveting information, I know you're glued to hear what we're doing this week. We spun the wheel. We made the deal. And last week, we chose, bam, games Pixel Gaiden got wrong. They got them wrong. Now, I know what you're asking yourself. You're asking yourself, how is a show like Pixel Gaiden being featured on your lowly event? Well, it's crossover, Brent, because the fella that sent this piece in was none other than Eric, the man himself from the Pixel Gaiden podcast. Let's talk about what we're doing here. So, if you haven't heard, Pixel Gaiden is a podcast that runs on the Amigos Retro Gaming podcast channel.
Yes.
Along with ourselves, Amigos, and Jack Flack, and all of our sister shows out there. This is really sort of the oddball show. This is a trio of fine fellows. You've got Tim Drew. He's fresh from the streets of Sussex, he is, over in the UK. He's the super nice, super intelligent guy.
Oh,
right?
so he's like me.
No, I said nice and intelligent.
Oh.
Then you've got Cody. Cody here, he's the guy that's bombastic and charismatic.
He's the guy picking Final Fight.
He may be, but one thing he also is that he can sing. He can scream. He does it all. He does it all.
Is screaming a qualification?
Yeah, it is. That's part of it.
Wow.
And then lastly, to round out the trio, you've got the aforementioned Eric. Eric is he's sort of the everyman of the show. He is the guy. He's like, you know, when you go on a Sherlock Holmes adventure, when you read that, you got Watson there, because you can relate to Watson. Eric's the relatable, soft-spoken gentleman of the group.
So you're saying the other two are high on cocaine?
No, I'm saying one's bombastic, one's super-duper sweet, like sweeter than your average person. Eric's not that sweet. He's a little sour. He's somewhere in the middle. So he's the middle one, is what I'm saying.
All right.
What you get here is a trio of enjoyment that covers retro and retro-inspired gaming. Retro-inspired gaming is like crap that came out for the Wii and indie stuff. I think that's
Well, it's not crap.
Well, no, I mean good stuff that came out for the new Switch. Did I say the Wii? I think I did. I meant to say the Switch. They're all the same, right? Wii U, Switch. They're all the same. This is why I'm not a member of the Pixel Gaiden crew. Too dumb. And so, with all that said, Pixel Gaiden has been around now for hundreds of episodes. And amongst these episodes, they have certain opinions on games. And I'm not going to lie to you, I find myself on the wrong side of those opinions quite often. In fact, I voiced my hate in the Pixel Gaiden section of our Discord. By the way, if you join our Discord, you've got access to the Pixel Gaiden
You too
section.
can express your hate.
Yeah, we also express our undying love and devotion in there as well.
Oh, okay.
Now, Brett, I know you're a long-time Pixel Gaiden podcast fanatic. What's your favorite segments on these shows?
Where they pick the 6 good games and they have a category.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. They give you an idea of what games are available for a system. I also like the ones that have a certain amount of money they've got to spend on the best games you could get for a system, like the Vectrix, for example, I believe was one they did. It's a fun, lighthearted show with 3 fine fellows. Now, with all that
Normally
said,
3 fine fellows.
with all that said, I went out and dropped the hammer on a couple things. Because
Well, now we got that out of the way.
when we had to pick games for this show, there were several that sprung to mind. Now, this show has a rep.
Yeah, you actually tried to force me into a game.
I did. And since you didn't take it, I'm just going to bury them here. The first thing that really made me upset about the Pixel Gaiden crew is their hatred, their loathing of Galaga. I can't figure it out. I'm looking at the Galaga machine right there. We love Galaga. We love everything about it. But these guys don't love it. They love Galaga 88. I talked to some Galaga players this week at an informal poll, and 100% of them agreed with me that this is insanity. Galaga 88, cutified, wimped out, less cool Galaga. Your thoughts?
It's okay.
But it's not as good as Galaga.
They tried to evolve the formula, and they put in very low effort.
Listen, the ship looks dumb. They took out the element of getting the second ship by just giving it to you.
Well,
they made the aliens.
You can still get the second ship the same way.
They made the aliens cutesy. They jacked up the sound effects. They screwed up the bonus round. You know, the boss fights are goofy. We don't need boss fights.
I don't
No
mind.
good.
Now,
So that's my burial.
there was a reason why I did not fold to your demands.
Yeah, because I tried to strong arm Brent into picking that one.
Yeah. Is Galaga 88 a good game? No. I mean, I don't personally think it's a good game. Is it a better game than Galaga? I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah,
but
you almost got kicked off the show there.
But it's they tried to evolve the formula, and I don't think they did it in a very good way.
And we'll talk about something else that tried that very thing here in a minute. But so that's one I wanted to cover. But for the most part, I mostly agree with what they say. And a lot of the stuff they cover in the indie world, they've actually introduced me to some stuff.
Yeah.
Including that great game that we played on the PC. Gosh, the name escapes. It's the best game we played all year, probably.
Broforce?
Broforce. That's the first place I heard about Broforce, which is a great game. They've introduced me to a lot of good stuff on there. So they have a different slant than any other show on our channel because they cover more modern stuff.
Yeah.
That makes them fun. With all that said, we were tasked with picking a couple games that are held in high regard by the Pixel Gaiden crew, and then we're going to be fair and upfront.
Oh.
When we do, we're going to be fair.
Yeah.
And up front, when we cover these, the brand, I'm going to go ahead and lead the dance. So as I mentioned, there were two things they've ever said that, I believe they said Rainbow Islands was the finest video game ever made. That's another one I don't agree with. But
it's okay.
Well, all that said, generally I'm in lockstep with the boys, especially Sanction. Me and him are pretty much about the same in most games. However, every once in a while they say something that's so divisive amongst the community, so hurtful, so painful to hear that I have to step up. And this is a time that I promise you I will give a fair and honest opinion when I talk about, bam, it's Time Pilot 84.
Yeah.
Time Pilot 84. Now, I'm going to do just a smidge of backstory here, and then we'll get into Time Pilot 84. So everyone remembers we actually covered Time Pilot back in the day, Brent. The Konami classic that came out in Japan in 82 and the rest of the world in 83. Designed by Yoshiki Okamoto. Now, you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, isn't he some sort of gaming legendary god? Correct. Just to name off a few of the things he worked on as a designer, Time Pilot's Gyrus was one of his. He went over to Capcom and did
Magic
Night
Sword.
Stalkers, Street Fighter 3, a bunch of Mega Mans. I mean, he's worked on the Versus series. He's the King Dong.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy's no slouch. Now, Time Pilot, an absolute stone cold classic, a lock. Right, everyone considers it the top game, and of course it made bundles of money for Konami. It did great in the U.S. It did great in Japan. In fact, it topped the charts in '83. It was in the top 15, and you got to consider this is '83. So I don't think anyone's going to fight me that Time Pilot is a great game, right? You wouldn't fight me on that, would you?
No.
By the way, just for the record, when me and Boat went up to that big arcade in Chicago, one of the first games I sought out and played in the original cabinet, Time Pilot. Now, ironically, I skipped over the game I'm covering this week, but they had that too. Now, before I get too far into this, I stooged off our choices to one of the Pixel Gaiden crew, which, by the way, both these happen to be from the same gentleman.
We didn't mean to dogpile on Eric. It just happened.
So Eric Nelson has to pay the ultimate price for freedom. Now, I have here in my hot little hands a little short video or audio clip that Eric recorded. If you guys will indulge me, I will play it for you right this second. This is Eric talking about Time Pilot 84.
Hey, this is Eric from Pixel Gaiden, and I'm here to talk about Time Pilot 84. I know that Aaron picked this as a game that we, or I should say I, since I'm the one who picked this for our 6 Good Games segment, Aaron picked this to, I think, say that it is not a good game. So I guess I'm here to defend it. So here's what I'm going to say about it. I never played this game in the arcade, and I later found out that it was basically a game that was used as a conversion kit for existing cabinets, probably why I never saw it anywhere. I only found it maybe 10, 11 years ago when I built my first MAME cabinet. So I built an arcade cabinet, and I picked Time Pilot, which to play because it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite arcade games of all time. I love the original Time Pilot. And while I was scrolling through the list of ROMs on my MAME cabinet, I came across Time Pilot 84, and I had never heard of it. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to give this a shot. And at first, I didn't really dig it because it wasn't like Time Pilot, and it really isn't. The only thing it really has in common with Time Pilot is that it's a multi-directional shooter. Everything else, the time mechanism for going through time, the way that you go from one time era to another just is not present on this. It's always in kind of a futuristic space theme. That threw me off at first, but once I started playing it, I actually really enjoyed it, and I did have to look up how to play it. It isn't as intuitive as it looks. Yes, it's a multi-directional shooter. One of your buttons fires shots and kills the green enemies, while silver enemies that come on the screen have to be destroyed by using a lock-on mechanic. And I am a sucker for a lock-on mechanic in a game. I love games where you pick multiple enemies, lock onto all of them, and then you fire a barrage of missiles to hit them all. And that is, Time Pilot 84 has that kind of element. So you fire your missiles. If you destroy a certain number of silver enemies, then you face the silver boss, which silver boss comes out and is flying around you, and you have to destroy that. Once I understood Time Pilot 84, and once I didn't compare it to the original Time Pilot, I fell in love with this game. And there was a kid that lives next door to me named Wilson. He was probably 15 at the time. He came over and saw me playing it once, and he was like, I want to give that a shot. He gave it a shot. He loved it, and we battled high score back and forth for probably a good 2 or 3 months. And that's one of my great memories of this game, was just having this fantastic high score battle. So it'll always have a place in my heart. Love the game. So I'm eager to hear what Aaron has to say about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric, for that heartfelt rebuttal. I promise that I will look at this game with a fresh set of eyes and will be a fair and honest man, as I'm known to be, to Brent. So let's get into Time Pilot 84, the game. Again, this was developed by the boys over at Konami and girls, and published by Konami in the year of our Lord 84. So didn't lie about that being Time Pilot 84. It is funny to me that a game called Time Pilot has a year in it, which seems sort of pointless. So Time Pilot and Time Pilot 84, despite what Eric said, they actually have a lot of things in common. Okay.
All right.
They are a free-scrolling shooting game that have a joystick control that literally swivels your craft, circular, semicircular. You move whatever direction you've spun the joystick in is the way the craft turns. It's one of those games where you really have to get used to the controls. You will agree with that. Time Pilot, the way it controls can be difficult to understand when you first sit down at it. And Time Pilot 84 is exactly the same. Unlike Time Pilot, which took place over 5 different time periods, I think going from like 1911 or something like that all the way up to like 2001, I believe was the last one. This game ditches the whole time element So I don't know why it's even called Time Pilot. There's no time travel in this at all, unless you traveled to the future and you just got stuck. I don't know. Maybe that's the game. So once you establish that there's no time travel, okay, what are we doing? So in the original game of Time Pilot, you went freely around this never-ending set of clouds, a sky scene, shooting enemies, and the enemies differed depending on the time period you were in. All right, you went from prop planes to World War II level planes to helicopters to jets to UFOs. Yeah. All right, so you had 5 distinctive elements that made up the enemies in the game. Plus, there were other things that you could do in those rounds, which we'll get into. So, Time Pilot 84 sort of does some of that. When a round ends, you sort of have some different enemies that show up, but there's more of an assortment of enemies in this in one round than you would have seen in the original Time Pilot.
Yes.
Okay. When you finish a level, in the original, you would shoot enemy planes or enemies, and there was a meter at the bottom that would register down, and as many enemies as you killed, it would eat away at that meter until when you got all the enemies that you needed to kill, the boss would come out, and the boss would vary between different levels. From like the first level, for example, is a blimp. Then there's like a big B-17 bomber or something like that. Then there's a big copter, yada yada. This game does away with that meter. That's gone.
Yeah.
And so, but it works the same way. You shoot enemies until you hit the limit. And we don't know what the limit is. It just happens. I don't know why they got rid of that meter, because the meter was good. And what you could do in the original Time Pilot was you could eat that meter down, and then you could just not kill the last couple planes, and you could fly around and pick up people in parachutes to get like a zillion points. That was a great strategy to do in the other game. This game doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have characters to rescue. It doesn't have that. And since you don't know how long it is before you get to the end boss, you can't stop killing guys to just focus on certain types of enemies because you don't know. So at the end of a round, when you've killed enough enemies, a noise goes off, and in the bottom bar, you sort of see what it looks like the outline of a UFO, and then eventually on the screen, a big saucer will come into view, and then you can kill it. Now, I've not said anything about the new weaponry in this, and it comes into play with the bosses and a few other things. In the original Time Pilot, you just had guns. That's all you needed, guns. The guns are back in Time Pilot 84, but they've added another dimension to the game, and the other dimension are missiles. They're lock-on missiles. If you played Time Pilot, think of the helicopters. I believe had lock-on missiles in that. Now, you could only have 2 missiles on the screen at a time. And locking on to enemies is, let's say, I don't want to say random, but you have to be facing them.
Definitely not random.
You have to be facing the enemy and somewhere near the enemy. I know that, for them to lock on. Now, unlike the original Time Pilot 84 has ground targets.
Yes. Sort of.
All right. Now they're on the ground, graphically on the ground. They don't really have much play in the actual game, but they're there to shoot, and you can lock onto them. And Eric mentioned that like pretty much anything that's kind of metallic looking is something you can lock on with missiles. There are enemies in the game that you have to kill with missiles, that you have no choice, and so you sort of have to become adept at the missile button. Now, I tried to play this like how I play Xevious. I just basically jammed the missile button and the shoot button at the same time. Well, you can't do that.
No.
Because you only get a couple missiles, and you can waste them quite easily.
You get unlimited missiles, but you can only have 70 on the screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't shoot missiles if you've got nothing targeted. Nothing happens. Yeah. Okay? So they've added that extra dynamic to the game. Now, when you complete a level is when you finish off the end UFO. You have to sort of missile him and then shoot him. He's not really, I didn't find him all that difficult, frankly. But then again, the original bosses weren't what I would call super tough either in the original game. So once you finish him off, your time pilot sort of does what it does in the first game. It sort of flashes and streaks off. I don't like it's going into warp speed or something. But the funny thing is, when the next level happens, you sort of just show back up in a different colored exact same spot. So let's talk about the backgrounds on this. The entire combat takes place over sort of a lunar industrial. I mean, I wouldn't call it a city. It's more like an industrial area, I think. And then you can also, if you go far enough one way of the screen, and before it wraps around, you see it. There's some lunar elements. There'll be craters and whatnot. Really, the floor of the game, what you see under you, doesn't really have a whole lot of sway in the game. Even with the things that are supposed to be on the ground, they don't look that much different or act that much different than stuff that's not on the ground. And so, except for more often than not, you have to bomb them is the only difference.
They try to keep them.
Well, I'm just saying, this isn't like Alcon or something where that stuff on the ground is actually shooting at you and doing intricate maneuvers, or even something like even something like Xebius. It's not even really like that at all. It's odd. It's all. I don't want to say that the ground stuff was tacked on, but there's not much to the ground area. So every time you complete a level, it palette swaps the background and sends you back in, and eventually you'll get extra man and whatnot. But I mean, it's rinse and repeat. Unlike the original, there are no different time periods, and so nothing's there to break it up. Now I thought about this because to me this game seems real empty. Okay. But I thought about it for a minute, right? So bear with me, right? So
I've been doing it so far.
When you play this game, think about the original. The original takes place pretty much in the clouds, except for the one time you're in space, okay? So you don't even see any, so the bottom doesn't change in that either, right? The enemies on this change pretty much every level, so does that one. So that's sort of the same. But I don't know why, but this game seems far more shallow and than the original game. It's odd because it really isn't if you think about it. You know what I mean? I ran through this game. I played through about I got to level 10 at one point. So your skills in Time Pilot they'll come back and help you. I mean, this isn't a far cry from Time Pilot. I tried to look, Brent, to see if the same fellow that worked on Time Pilot worked on this. From what I can tell, he did not. Okay, and from what I can tell, Eric was right. This was a board swap for the original Time Pilot. Although there are quite a few dedicated Time Pilot 84 cabinets out there, so I guess they just converted them fully over. But I mean, the swap is a marquee side art and a new control panel.
Yeah.
So it's a total swap. But I mean, otherwise, I guess it's about the same. I didn't like this game before I started playing it. I remember when this came out in the arcade, and I thought to myself, this is no good. I thought it was just like I said, shallow. I didn't like the new missile stuff. I didn't like the way you locked on and stuff. It didn't work that well. I thought the missiles didn't do enough, to be honest with you. You could almost go without using them except for a few elements that you need them for. And going into this time around, I pretty much felt the same. I mean, they kept some of the stuff I liked from Time Pilot, bonus for killing squadrons. There's some hidden stuff in this that pops up. Occasionally, you'll even see a plane from the old Time Pilot, like a B-52 or something, whip by. This also has enemies that are more difficult than just the regular fighters that you have to kill, just like the old game. So they didn't reinvent the wheel, I guess what I'm saying. But to me, it's just more of the same, except not as good. What did you think? Did you play this back in the day when it came out?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
I can fix this game.
You're going to fix the game?
Yeah, I can fix this game real easy.
All right.
You see that Time Pilot 84 marquee?
Yeah.
You just slide that puppy out, and you call it Stellar Defense, or you call it Global Annihilation. You slide that marquee in, and it's done. Because the problem with this game has almost nothing to do with the game.
All right.
The problem with this game is it's not Time Pilots. And, the ship's in the middle, you fly. It's just like, no, it's not. Time Pilots, was a shooter that had a lot of heart.
Yeah.
It had a lot of character.
Yes.
And that is what made the game go from good to great. Okay? If you just put this game out there in an arcade in 84 and you called it anything else.
Yeah.
Anything else except for Time Pilot, whatever, everyone would have been, this game's okay, I kind of enjoy it. It has some quirks that I didn't really like, and that would have been it.
I agree. Yeah, you could have said it better.
It comes down, and it's unfortunate, because why did they do this? The obvious answer is money. It was a cash grab. Time Pilot sold a crap ton of cabinets.
Yeah.
They sold a crap ton of cabinets. And this being a board swap makes 100% sense, because it allowed Konami to go, listen, guys, Time Pilot, I understand it's kind of trailing off, but look, we got Time Pilot sequel. You don't got to buy the cabinet. You just stick this in, new sticker, new marquee. Let's watch those profits go to the moon again, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't work because people had expectations that could not be met with the name Time Pilot on the marquee.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Is Time Pilot 84 a bad game? No. Is it a bad Time Pilot game? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's it.
One would wonder, I agree with almost everything you said there. One would wonder, and this I thought about this quite a bit, because in a lot of board swaps like this, they don't add elements to the game because then you have to swap out the control panel, and it's not something sometimes they just give you an overlay.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, why did they add a button to this? Because to me, that adds nothing to the game. And the only thing I could come up with, I come up with two things. One, they wanted to sell a replacement control panel, right? And two, they thought that what they had was so thin that they had to add some element to give it any sort of meat. And I think that's what they did. You're right. This game is a pedestrian shooter that was anchored by a all-time classics name. It's not the first one to have this happen. Anytime you come back with a sequel like this, I think Blue Max, Dig Dug. If you ever played Dig Dug 2, a lot of people hate that.
Yeah.
It's hard to take what you've got and do more with it. And I think you're right. I think this was a quick and dirty. They wanted to make some money, and that's ultimately what they did, sort of. I did see these in the arcade. I didn't see them for long, and I don't think I ever saw anyone playing these in the arcade. Now, one more thing in the defense of Eric, if you're not familiar with the Time Pilot series, for example, and this is the first thing you come across, and it is, if you've never played Time Pilot, you're not used to the way it looks, the way it plays, because this does play like Time Pilot, basically.
Sure.
Then you can see how this game would be appealing, because you don't know what you've missed out on. And so there you go on that. So I'm going to cut him a break. I will say I hated this less, much like when I played Blue Max 2001, or whatever it was we played. I hated it less than I remembered hating it, but I didn't like it. Not a bit. And so I'm going to say that the Pixel Gaiden crew was wrong about Time Pilot 84. There you go. So now, let's move on, shall we, to Brent? Eric also sent in a little item about your game. Why don't you go ahead and intro what you picked before we go to this?
Super Bomberman 2.
Super Bomberman 2. And was there any reason you picked this out of all the games they covered?
Yes.
And you'll get into it then.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's hear what Eric had to say about Super Bomberman number 2.
This is Eric again. I am here to defend a game that I mentioned on our show on Pixel Gaiden, and that game is Super Bomberman 2, which is on the Super Nintendo. I'm here to defend it. I know that the Brent is getting ready here to kick me in the giblets about this game, saying it's my favorite, or that it's as he quoted on Discord, I said in my segment that it is one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. And I probably should have clarified that. I fully admit I probably misspoke. It's not one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. It's one of the best games I owned back in the day. Now, when I had a Super Nintendo back in the day, it was a time in my life where I was dirt poor, And I had a Super Nintendo, but I had maybe 5 games for it. And 2 of those games was Street Fighter 2 and then Super Bomberman 2. And I know one of the other ones was Killer Instinct, and there's a couple other games I just don't remember. So I should have said that. I should have said this was my favorite games of the games that I had. Whatever, that's fine. I still am here to defend Super Bomberman 2 as one of the best games on Super Nintendo, definitely, because once you get a multi-tap for that, which a couple of my friends had the multi-tap, and you can connect 4 controllers to your Super Nintendo, Super Bomberman 2 becomes one of the best party games of all time for any home system. Super Bomberman 2, I can't tell you how many parties we had where, we had 10, 15 people show up and basically taking their turns playing against each other, where we play King of the Hill, where the winner of the Super Bomberman 2 tournament would get to stay, and 3 other people would come in and we would all play. Super Bomberman 2 is... I can't overstate how much fun it is when you have multiple people. Now, I will grant you, and I'm sure that the Brent will mention this, it isn't a great single-player game at all. Most Bombermans are not great single-player games. I might have played the single-player part of Super Bomberman 2 maybe for an hour or 2 total. It's okay. I mean, it's okay. It becomes more of kind of like a puzzle game of how to get past certain levels. As you know from my show, I don't like puzzle games that much in general. So yeah, I don't like the single player Super Bomberman 2 that much, but I will say the multiplayer is one of the best games on Super Nintendo for multiplayer, as long as you have a multi-tap. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I'm eager to hear what Brent has to say about this. Thanks.
All right, so there you go. A little from Eric there. Brent?
Yeah, let's bring up the camera. Bring the big screen. Bring big screen. I need the big screen.
Okay, the big screen. Got it.
Now, let's go into focus here. Camera 1, close to me.
We only have one camera. It's over there.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Now, let me tell you something. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that your nostalgia is wrong. That's not what I'm here for. Okay. I'm here to explain to you why Super Bomberman 2 is a horrible party game.
Okay.
Super Bomberman 2, if you don't know what it is, you lay down some bombs and blow us up. I'm not going to get into all that crap.
It's a lot like other Bombermans.
Real quick, though, I do want to touch on the single player.
Yeah.
This game had an improved single player experience over the first one.
I liked it.
And no one cared.
Oh, I liked it. That was the best part.
No one plays Bomberman for the single player.
I do. That was the one on the Amiga, same way. I like the single player.
Now here is why there's 3 huge reasons why Super Bomberman 2 is not a good game, and it is one of the worst party games you can ever play.
Okay, wow.
For the Super Nintendo.
All right.
Number 1, price of entry. You have to buy the game. You have to buy the system. You have to buy the game. You have to buy the multi-tap. And the multi-tap for the Super Nintendo supported a couple dozen games. But it's an extra expense that you have to endure to play Super Bomberman 2.
Plus the joysticks.
The extra sticks, if you're playing 4-player, that's a given across all the systems. But there are plenty of systems out there, and not necessarily at the release of this game, but very close to the future of it, that had 4 joystick ports natively that you can play Bomberman.
Was that multi-tap? I never saw one of those things. Were they kind of pricey or are they cheap?
They were hard to find.
Yeah.
And there was a period where they were very hard to find, and then there was a period where you could not find them.
I've never seen one in person.
So, but that's an extra barrier of entry before you do anything else.
Good point. Okay? Yep.
Thing number 2, skill level in Super Bomberman 2 is vital for success. And by default, yes, it is an option you can turn off, but by default, the winner of a Bomberman game can get boosted in the upcoming rounds. But you can turn that off. You can change all that. Sometimes they get hindered by it. Sometimes they get boosted.
Elevate.
You want to know what the absolute worst part of Super Bomberman 2 is, though, Aaron?
Yeah.
And this is true on all the Bomberman games.
All of them on every system?
Yes.
All right, what?
Well, yes. Yeah, across all of them.
All right.
If you are not good at the game, now this is a party game. This is something where somebody should be able to hot seat in, play, and have fun.
Yeah.
If you are not good at a Bomberman game, you will start up the game, you will die, and then you will sit there for 2 to 5 minutes doing nothing.
I've felt that pain.
Nothing.
I've felt that pain many times.
And there is... Party games are supposed to bring in non-gamers, and it's supposed to say, listen, man, we can all have fun playing this.
Right.
Right? Come on over. We'll all play Bomberman. It'll be a good time. And I guarantee you that at least one of your 4 people was not having a good time. I guarantee he endured Bomberman just to hang out with the rest of the group. It's just the way it was. We played Bomberman. I played Bomberman for all the way through, all the way from the NES one, right? My group, my gaming group. There were 3 of us that were equally par. We were awesome gamers, right?
Yeah.
And we would usually tag in a girlfriend or a sister or one of the buddies to come over. And when they played Bomberman, it was like crushing their souls round after round as they just sat there wondering, why am I playing this game? And that is multiplayer Bomberman in a nutshell. Is it fun to have 4 equally skilled players play Bomberman? Yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with it.
I can't find anybody that bad at it.
All right?
Yeah.
But when you have any diversion in skill level, someone is going to have no fun because they're going to have a 30 gaming experience with 5 minutes to sit in there. And you want to know what really just grinds this home?
What grinds it home?
What just really kills it?
What kills it?
If you play this by yourself, multiplayer, first of all, I'm sorry. But second of all,
I did that too.
If you die, you have to sit and watch the computer play.
Yeah.
So you get to experience the dread that loser player gets. If you think this is a good game, if you think this is a fun multiplayer game, all right, you load it up, crank all the computer difficulties up to as high as they'll go, and then you play it. And when you die, you can't fast forward the emulation. You just sit there and eat it. As you are bored out of your mind. That's what all your buddies who you tagged into playing this are actually feeling. It sucks. You've got games like Rock Band, where even if you are the trashiest player that ever played, you still get to play from beginning to end 99.9% of the time.
Yeah. We sing.
Okay?
Yeah.
This takes the whole concept of let's all sit down at the couch and play a fun game and just tears it, just gnaws it out of the chest of happiness and stomps on it.
Let me ask you a question, if I may. You know, Bomberman has a rep for being this all-time classic, and the party part of it is great. Remember the Saturn? Get 2 multi-taps, have like 30 people sitting around. Yeah. Everybody loves it. Dreamcast has been on every system. Like, you're burying this one.
Yeah.
Now, it's not, you're burying the whole series here, okay? But I mean, why is it so beloved if you think it's horrible?
Because when you were on top,
Yeah.
when you were the guy that's winning round after round, playing, the full allotment of the game time, yeah it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh man, I kicked that bomb and it hit him on the head and he wasn't ready for it. He didn't know the explosion was going to be that big.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was laughing. I was having a good old time. Oh, it was great. Those are the people they interview. Those are the people who write the review.
They don't interview the loser.
They don't interview the guy that is sitting on their couch going, why do they hate me?
Yeah.
Why do they keep making me play this game?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what did I do to them?
You've brought me to tears because you've actually encapsulated my feelings about Bomberman. It's so verbosely and beautifully. That was like poetry, because this is the way I feel when I'm playing other people. They're having a great time and laughing, and they're using power-ups and kicking crap, and I don't know what they're doing, and I'm just getting repeatedly pulverized and then sitting there for 20 minutes while the game breaks down. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. Now, may I chime in here at this?
Absolutely.
I never played Bomberman 2 for the Super Nintendo. I was surprised that had an opening cinematic with some aliens coming down.
Yeah.
I guess the Bomberman's got to go take these other evil alien bombers out and then fight the boss. I really enjoyed the first. I've enjoyed the one-player version of this.
No,
hold on, let me finish. Number one, I could actually play for Bomberman for more than a minute at a time, and I had fun. I could get past stuff. I beat the whole first world up to the end. I was proud of that. Now, I don't like the fact that when you fight the end guy, you fight him and then he gets in this thing, and then you have to fight him again. If you lose, you have to refight the first fight. I don't like that.
No, that's not the problem with single-player Bomberman.
Well, no, there's no problem with it.
Oh, yes,
okay.
there is.
There's more?
Yeah, the problem with single-player Bomberman?
I don't. What is it?
You get to play the entire time.
Yeah.
And every board, you feel compelled. I'm not saying you have to, but you feel compelled to blow up every single chest
I don't
on
do
the
that.
board.
I don't feel compelled. That's what I call the Zelda effect. I don't go and sword every bush. I'm not doing it.
But if you don't,
you
have less power going forward.
Well, I don't like that.
It should be, if you kill all the enemies, all the chests, all the barriers just go.
Yeah, that'd be
right?
great. Yeah.
And then you go and you pick up your power-ups and you go to the next game. Bomberman is a game all about waiting.
Well,
it's all about setting.
There is a lot of setting, and it also occasionally killing yourself. So it's also a game about suicide, or at least at the bare minimum, not being someone that's full with explosives. But the one-player game, you're lighting lights to open the door at the end as you're going through and blowing stuff up. I mean, I had a pretty fun time. I'm not that good at it.
Did you lose or did you quit?
I lost. I used up all my continues.
All right, well.
I didn't say I was not that good at it.
I'm going to assure you don't want to play this multiplayer.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it as much as you did. So what you're saying is, given what Cody said, was Pixel Gaiden right about this one, or were they wrong about this one?
No, he was perfectly fine with it. Because the nostalgia centers in his brains. Well, first of all, it's blinding him to some of the best Super Nintendo games. Some of the best games in all of gaming history happened on the Super Nintendo. Okay? Super Metroid, for example, is an absolute work of art. It was one of the first games that told a story in an action platformer that would actually make you feel. I mean, I know you've never played through it. Right, I get it, and you have to dedicate to get to the point where you get to the big story elements. But to say it actually makes me sad. It makes me sad that Eric rates this as his favorite Super Nintendo game.
Didn't he clarify that by just saying it's one of the ones he had, though?
Well, go back, man. There are some great games on the Super Nintendo, but I understand the power of being the game that you have all these great memories over. Right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can say. There's absolutely nothing I can say that's going to make that not true for you. Just understand. Good for you and even good for the buddies sitting on either side of you, having a good old time. Great. It's that fourth guy down in the corner that's not having a good time.
No, just a couple things before we close shop on this. Name me what you consider a great party game that has simultaneous multiplayer.
The Mario Party games are really good.
They're okay.
The Mario Kart games are really good.
All right,
Even though
I gotta give you that one.
I hate the catch-up mechanic. I respect the catch-up mechanic. Where if you're losing bad, but you're actually trying, you're going to get the more powerful weapons.
Yeah. The NBA Jam effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
NBA Jam's a great party game.
All right. Now, I want to say, just because this seemed like a barrier, and I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Because you came across like some kind of passionate guy who's looking out for the guy that stinks of the game. I've seen you repeatedly beat the tar out of someone like myself, for example, at fighting games and cackle as you do it over and over and over for hours at a time.
Yeah.
So it's not like you don't take any joy from pounding down some poor sucker.
Nope. Never said I didn't take joy in that.
And number two, I am going to say that the Pixel Gaiden guys weren't that awful in this one. To me, it sounds like it's just like your normal Bomberman, but I like the single player part. So I'm going to give them the marginal thumbs up on this one.
Any game where I defeat you, Aaron, and then I have to wait like 6 minutes while I kill everybody else to defeat you again, no good.
Well, I can understand what you're saying now. Now, listen. This has been a difficult time here, going through here and trying these games that were picked by somebody else, and they liked them. It hurts me to go through and do that sort of thing. And so what I think we should do here is take a little break to let our minds heal. What could help us with that, Brent?
I believe a little bit of sipping cream.
That's right. So normally on Pixel Gaiden they have a booze feature. So now we're not fancy highfalutin Californians down here. We get our stuff made fresh daily, and so you can see right here, XXX. If you can't, this is our canister here. And then we'll go, they have a traditional rating scale here, so I'm going to tip this back. Now, I believe this is corn whiskey that was made out behind Elmer's shed, if I'm not mistaken. Let's give it a shot.
You know why I like Elmer? He uses some of the best paper labels.
Oh, smooth.
He uses some of the best paper labels. I print these for him, Aaron. Did you know that?
Oh, man. Oh. Holy smoke. That'll knock your crooked eye straight, if you know what I mean. Whew, I wouldn't drink too much of that. I gotta forget about Bomberman. Oh, man. So let me ask you. On a scale of 1 to, say, I don't know, 63 Elmers, where would you rate this one? This particular brew, the Brent?
Sniffing glue.
Correct. I'd say, yeah, about a 45. I would agree with that. Listen, spin the freaking wheel. Let's get this thing moving.
No.
Oh, man.
I gotta get something fixed, Aaron, and I can't do it now.
What's wrong? What will help you fix yourself when it's in your time of need?
Brain hurt. I need retro rewind.
You mean retrorewind.ca? Listen, if you need someone to tinker with your thinker, there's only one place to go. It's retrorewind.ca. Do you have a Commodore machine? Do you have a Coco, a TRC color computer machine? Do you need repairs, recaps? Does something need to be retooled, realigned? Send it up to our good buddy Frank at retrorewind.ca. He's got world-class experience, decades of world-class experience in repair. He will take your broken machine and set that thing right. On top of everything else, he will provide you with the tools to do it yourself. Are you a do-it-yourselfer? I know you're not, but some people are. He's got diagnostic tools, diagnostic ROMs, plus he's your one-stop shop for accoutrement for your computer. Do you need Kickstart ROMs? Do you need SD solutions, cabling? He's got it all, brother, and he's got it at cheap Canadian prices. The kind of prices you only see north of the border. Woo. So please, won't you please check out retrorewind.ca. And by the way, he also sponsors Pixel Gaiden. So go! Hit the wheel, Frank.
All right, Aaron. We added
no chat stuff, for God's sake.
Games you like, but your brother will hate.
Who suggested that?
Dave Velociraptor.
Oh, that crazy nut. Why am I not surprised?
And for the Retro Rewind, CPS 1 Arcade.
Oh,
A
nice.
nice palette cleanser.
Yeah, we could pick a guy that did Time Pilot. Here we go. Ooh. We need Taboo out here to determine what's going to win. Oh, man, we dodged a bullet there, didn't we?
No.
What do we pick here? The
You know,
Brent?
sometimes, Aaron, you step out of the path of one bullet just to get hit by another.
Yeah.
We got the TK90X.
Is that an experimental plane of some sort?
Brought to us by Z9K9.
Let's see that piece.
You know, nothing says let's do a short week like the TK90X.
What is that?
I don't know.
Man, how many times have I said that on this show? So that means next week, the Brent, we'll be looking at the TX, the
TK90X.
That's the thing they were going to use to blow up the world. Those old Bugs Bunny cartoons, I believe.
You know, supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
That's right. You know, as I look at the old calendar on the wall, the Brent, I see one thing, and it fills me with elation, yet simultaneously horrible, horrible dread. And that is, we're a month away from Boat Fest 2023, brother. You know it's going to be a happening when I break out the Hulkster voice. Please, I beseech you, come meet us. Who wouldn't want to do that? Or if you'd like to come and make us not go near you, we can accommodate. But this is Boat Fest 2023.
We will allow restraining orders at the door.
That's right. It's held in scenic Hurricane, West Virginia. Beautiful, beautiful surroundings. You know, summer's here. The time is right. The trees look great. Everything looks beautiful here in West Virginia. The perfect time to indulge in your computer habits by coming and joining us at Boat Fest. We're going to have all the computers out, sprawled out like you never saw them before. It's going to be 10 shades of awesome. Bo will be there. Jack Flack will be there. Tons of people in the chat will be there.
Oh, Eric won't be there, will he?
Eric, Cody, and Sanction, as far as I know, aren't going to be there. They dropped the ball again.
Woo.
Oh, yeah, they can't come across the continent. But that's okay, because we'll be also, we'll be sending this sucker across the internet via the stream. So you can also join us by stream. But we'd love to see you in person. That's Boat Fest, the big one. This is the big one,
Eric,
coming up June 23rd through 25th.
Eric,
Get your tickets now.
If you can make it to Boat Fest, we'll play some Bomberman.
There you go. There you go. Now, you know, it's a tradition on the Pixel Gaiden show. They have a section called Acquisitions where they go over the many things that they pick up in a month. You know, now I know you've got everything stacked neatly, and so do I. So, Brent, what were your acquisitions this month?
I got nothing.
Me either. I'm broke. Have a good week, everyone.